Welcome to Season 5 of How I Made It Through, and thank you for joining us. I have invited Catania, author, metaphysical teacher, and coach, to join me as my co-host as we aim to engage, challenge, inspire, and teach you, our listeners, what it really means to be a spiritual being having a human experience. We'll explore not just concepts, but attempt to unravel the neuroscience of metaphysics, as well as practices designed to expand consciousness, increase healing, and develop a profound connection to love. We'll explore God, death, the afterlife, and pushing past limitations as we encourage you to break free of the trance of fear so that you may experience greater freedom, peace, and connection to yourselves, each other, and spirit.
Today we have
Rebecca Kastl.
Rebecca Kastl.
She is an energy healer, angel interpreter, and pediatric speech language pathologist. Yeah, her story seems really interesting. She's another one that Bernadette Thompson introduced us to.
Interesting.
So I understand that, you were in a crisis situation, which obviously takes precedence, but the interview with Jessica Lynn, she was phenomenal.
Oh, good.
Listen to it, watch it when it comes out. She was so extraordinary. And when messages come in exactly when you need to hear it, like it was exactly what I needed to hear that day, that moment, on the heels of working with someone else who was saying the exact same thing to me. So I was like, okay, universe, I'm hearing it.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah. So I hope everything is okay with your client and you. And
well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely takes, I mean, I know you're a coach, so you experience this also, when somebody has a break, it has an emotional effect on us, right? Because we are in the trenches with them.
Yeah. Sure. All to say that I care, and I've been in many of those situations.
Yeah. When you get to a point where do you call this one in or do you not call this one in? It's on the border because the depression is so severe and you're like,
yeah,
scary.
It is scary. I, a million years ago, I was a crisis counselor.
Were you?
And so I bring that into my work, and prior to working with anyone, I do an assessment to make sure that I'm an appropriate choice versus a therapist. Do you have, I'm happy, I don't know what you do.
I would love to learn more about that from you. Yes.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah. So happy I can even write it down for you or talk through it with you just for their safety and yours.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So I do a consult always before I take anyone, right? And then of course there's always like somebody that we can't take, and it's for various reasons. Usually something will surface in that conversation, but sometimes it doesn't. It's rare, but it just doesn't. Yeah. So yeah, I could really use your advice on that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Of course.
But it's always a judgment call.
I mean, I do go down the list. I always cover substances, always cover any type of abuse, always cover things of that nature. But you know what? I've never come out and actually asked that question that you just
Yeah. Anyway.
What's the question that I missed? Hi.
Are you suicidal?
Oh, that's an important one. I just had a reading with someone who's dealing with some very deep mental illness, so I'm glad that
that's the way.
Yeah. So we all work with clients in different capacities. And so we were just talking about how important it is before we're working with someone, we're committing to a coaching relationship.
When to say no, when to take them.
Yeah. But nice to meet you, Rebecca, on that.
We didn't mean to start that like
no,
glad.
I'm actually really glad. I wish I could just left a reading that was about similar.
Oh, wow.
But she has a therapist too, so it makes me feel,
Oh,
that,
good.
you know what? You just reminded me of something that is in my questionnaire. Are you working with a therapist or a psychiatrist, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I think that's important.
It's really important.
It's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, here you are. You are a referral from Bernadette Thompson, yes?
Oh, I love Bernadette. Yes, we were on our panel this year together at IANS. Yeah, it was great.
She said it was an amazing experience. It was for you as well.
It was great. It was my second time talking. The first time was much more, I was so scared, and this time it was fun and great.
Oh, good.
So, yeah.
Oh, good. All right. Well, I'll start by saying welcome to How I Made It Through. I'm going to go ahead and read your bio. Okay. Today's guest is Rebecca Kastl. Rebecca Kastl is a pediatric speech language pathologist, energy healer, and angel interpreter who underwent a life-changing spiritually transformative experience. Those are called STEs. This happened in her 20s while working on healing from childhood trauma. Her STE started when she spontaneously devoted her life to God while writing in her journal. That night, she saw a beautiful light that spoke to her, after which she began seeing light inside everyone, having psychic dreams, viewing alternate timelines of her life. Oh my God, that's fascinating. Feeling how connected we all are, and sensing and communicating with angels. She is a former total skeptic with Christian, Jewish, and indigenous influences in her family that helped shape her understanding of her experiences. She now offers angel readings and energy healings that build on the foundation of what she saw and felt during her STE. Wow. Wow. Really cool.
It
Yeah.
made me really nuts for a long time. But yes, you basically my bio has my whole experience in it. But yes, it was
Yeah.
amazing.
Amazing. Well, I think Ray can connect with that when you're having these experiences that are so outside of the realm of what consensual reality is. It's easy to feel like, oh, I'm kind of going nuts. How much do I share? So, share a little bit about life before this happened and then walk us through this experience and what it ushered into your life.
Yes, wonderful. I would love to. I did before this experience. I was raised in a skeptical family, but I had kind of an interfaith background in my parents. My dad was Jewish, my mom was Christian. Eventually, my mom remarried an indigenous man, which helped me a lot in my 20s. But I can talk about that later. So that was my background. I didn't believe in lights and seeing things and angels. It was like science, material reductionism, reality.
Yeah.
But I had a trauma at 13 that kind of forced me to get out of that mindset because the trauma was very intense and horrible. I didn't deal with it for a long time until I started going to therapy. I went to a lot of therapy. And eventually my therapist was like, "You're fine." And I was like, "I don't think I'm fine." Like I had done all the mental healing, but there was more. I just knew that it felt like something was on top of my heart. And I just remember that feeling like, I think I really want to feel what's under there. I want to know what's under my heart. I was 23 when I had kind of realized I wanted to do that. And I had set an intention that I wanted to heal all the way. Just remember thinking that. And that's what really set me on a trajectory to have my spiritual experiences. I didn't know healing all the way would mean like seeing lights and talking to God, but I think it does. Maybe for me, it did. Um, but so when I set that intention, I started meeting healers and teachers, kind of like they were just being ushered into my life. So I met a Reiki teacher, didn't believe a lick of anything she said. I was like, every time she told me anything, I was like, that's so not real. But I would go and I would feel so much better every time. So I couldn't deny, like, my own experience it was helping me. I also met a yoga teacher, and I had done a lot of therapy, but I hadn't really been embodied. I needed to really learn how to re-enter my body in a safe way. Yeah. So the yoga, I did a lot of yoga. Those two things together really helped. I still go to therapy sometimes. It's not like it was bad. I just think there was more that I needed to do. So as I was doing those things, I got really healthy. I got a lot happier. And I moved to New York for grad school when I was 25. So from 23 to 25, I was doing a lot of healing. Grad school in New York, at Teachers College at Columbia University. That's where my STE started. So I was in a very intellectual environment. Um, but I was writing in my journal. So during those couple years of my intensive healing, I started writing my journal, Dear God. I would just like, Dear God, I'm in school. Dear God, life is good. And I would ask questions and things I was thinking about. And this night that started my STE, I was writing in my journal, Dear God. And I felt like I got really taken over by a feeling, by a spiritual feeling. I was crying, and I wrote that I wanted to devote my life to God. It just feels like it came out of nowhere. I wrote, "Dear God, I have decided to give my life to you." And I wrote, "Give my life" in all caps, and whatever that entails. I want to be guided by you, by the light. This is my pledge. I will work hard to follow this path and bring it to fruition. Please help me do this. Please help me bring light to other people. Thank you. Amen. I was crying. I meant it. And then I was like, "Okay, that's fine. I'm going to bed." Like, I finished I didn't think I was gonna change my life really that much. But that night when I went to bed, I saw a light come over my bed, and it was like I questioned myself about seeing this light a million times. It was so real. It was realer than any light. It's not like a light you turn on in your room. It went from one end of the room to right over me, and it could see all the way into my heart and my soul. And I could tell that it loved me and it knew me, and I was really scared to be seen that fully. This was like a very soul experience I was having. And I tensed up and I told it to go away over and over again because I was scared. I said, "Go away, I'm scared, go away, I'm scared." And then I started to feel tingling go through my head after I said that, and it was like love and peace spreading through my head, and I thought it was a headache. I had a boyfriend at the time. I looked at him like, "What's this headache? Is he having this weird headache? Like, what is this?" And as I felt the feeling spread through my head, I relaxed into it, and it put a voice into my head that said, "You don't have to be afraid, but if you are, you can wear a hat." And it put a graduation hat into my mind's eye. And again, I was not spiritual. It was almost like as if somebody just on the street was like, "Do you like this hat?" And when this happened in this moment, I just remember saying right back to the voice, "I don't like that hat." And I tried to put some other options of hats because I was not spiritual and I had been very wounded. So, like, if the lights come, I was not expecting any of this to happen. So I told the light, I just said I didn't like that hat. And then once I did that, the voice stopped. So I was sad to say that I might have gotten some more cool messages, but I just wasn't ready. But the experience started like from that night and for the next 2 years. So all of those things you read in my bio were happening over the 2 years that I was living my life from 26 to 28. So the next morning I woke up like weird. That was kind of weird. And I was like walking to school and I could see light coming out of everyone I saw, like beautiful, beautiful, ethereal, heavenly light, like absolutely angelic. I was walking down the street like, "Oh my gosh, everyone's an amazing angel. How come I never noticed that people are so beautiful?" And I just was like, "What?" Um, and then other things started happening that week. I started having psychic dreams. Like they started that week. They were giving me guidance. They were telling me things that were going to happen. My mom had been a psychologist, so every dream you have in that world that I was raised in is about you. You interpret them as if everyone around you in the dream I mean, maybe in reality that's also true since but I would have a dream about a friend and it would turn out to be true. Over the years, I had a dream about a car accident before it happened. I had a dream about getting carbon monoxide poisoning that I got and survived before it happened. And it's just like little things like that over the years. They've never stopped. And they're not really, I say they're not prophetic. They're not about the whole world. They're just about my little mundane life and my friends or, something that's going to happen. So those have continued ever since. So even during the period when I decided my experience wasn't real and I thought I made it all up, I was still having psychic dreams. So it was one of the lifelines that kept me believing in my experience. I also started feeling angels around me. So the first time I noticed it, I was going to sign up to study abroad. And I felt two really tall angels on either shoulder, basically telling me not to do that. Without words, they told me. And I've felt angels since. I've seen them, and now I have a system to connect with them for my readings. So that's been really cool. But it was also something that I don't believe in. But it was like so deep and so touching my soul. Like I knew those were angels on my shoulder. Like I felt it. I knew it. Um, I also felt how connected we all are, so it's kinda like a life review, but I was living my regular life. I hurt my sister's feelings by accident, and I remember talking to her on the phone after that and feeling in my body and my heart, like, how much I'd really hurt her in a way that I didn't realize. Like, all of this stuff, I was like, "I didn't know life was like this. I didn't know life was like that. I didn't know I was affecting people and hurting them." By being careless, and then I was realizing then too, like, I need to be kinder, I need to be kind to people, that makes a huge difference in our world, to
Mm.
everyone, every single human, no matter their station or where they are, that kindness, so I've done that. Now the alternate timelines, that was a really weird But real thing that happened, it wasn't like I saw this one main alternate timeline of my life when during those 2 years. I opened up my computer to write at a coffee shop, and I was gonna write about something else. Now I know I'm supposed to write and share about this experience, but at the time, I didn't realize that. I didn't know if it was real, and I didn't wanna ever talk about it if it was real. But, this time I opened up my computer to write about something else, and, I saw my whole life before my eyes. I lived and saw my whole life if I did that. It's like I lived the book getting published to bad reviews. I lived like seeing the reviews, feeling dejected, and like living out a pretty sad and lonely life that never recovered. And it wasn't like it was just I had a daydream about it. It wasn't. It was more real. It was just like I lived that entire life. It wasn't like I just had this daydream about it. It was so wild. And after that, especially towards the end of my STE and for a while, I could feel how my life would shift if I did different choices. Like I could feel the timeline, not as visual as that one that I saw, but it was really hard to make decisions for a while because I could see every little choice that I'm making in my life, like changing my life. But if you stay in tune with your heart, you don't have to worry so much. So get tuned in and like
Oh
live
my
from that
God.
place. Yes. Two more things that happened, and then, you'll have heard most of my story. This was not in my bio. I was having these horrible nightmares of trauma. After my trauma, I was having these nightmares of what I called demons. I've been raised not to believe in demons. I'm not even sure I believe in them now. They were shadowy things that were circling my bed at night, every night since my trauma. The Reiki, the yoga, the therapy, none of that made it go away. But this one night during my STE, I was awakened in the middle of the night, with this shadowy figure circling me as they had for years. I was in a sleep paralysis. And I just remember sitting up outside my body in this waking dreams and saying, looking right at it, I just knew I didn't have to be afraid anymore. I'd been afraid for years. I looked right at it and said, "You can't hurt me. God lives in me and works through me." And I just triumphed. I just knew in my heart I didn't need to be afraid. I told it to go away. It went away. I never had another nightmare since. And that was, they had been persistent in my life for 13 years. And now it's been almost 20 years and I haven't had another nightmare. So that was probably the hugest part of my healing journey was to get those things to go away. What were they? I know people have so many perspectives on this, but as I said to a friend recently, I had to act as if it were real to make it go away because they were going to be around me, real or not real. I had to look at it and not be afraid, and it was gone forever.
And you were in a state of sleep paralysis when that
Yeah, I was
happened?
sitting up outside my body as I was often for these nightmares. I would be in sleep paralysis. It
Which
was
is
so
the worst.
It's the worst, and I would always be so scared. I would try to wake myself up, and they would circle me and taunt me. And I know it was traumatic, triggered by trauma and like
Mhm.
traumatic memories or whatever. I'm fascinated by it because my stepdad came from an indigenous culture where this would be more of a real situation.
Mhm.
So I like to think about the different ways you can approach it, no matter how you approach it. As if I heard a quote, whether I'm not saying it was real, I'm saying it happened. So I don't know if
Mhm.
it was real or not. It happened, and I had to get out of the
Yeah,
way by looking at it like that.
I like that.
And
I would say it was real, absolutely. As a medium,
yeah.
people, when they die, it doesn't make them nice. It's not a demon, okay? But there are
Yeah.
people that want your attention. Well,
Yeah.
now they're energy, right? They're not people
Yeah.
anymore. And if you didn't, they know you can see them and you're not paying attention, they will get more and more harassing, more annoying, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
But you, like you discovered, you have the control to say, get out of here. And
Yeah.
you can blast them into
Yeah.
oblivion. So
Right.
because this is our world and they're visiting here, we're
Mhm.
not over there.
Right.
Then they have control. But when they come
Absolutely.
here, you've got control. So
Yeah.
yeah, you navigated that perfectly.
Thank you. And I didn't know I could till I had my beautiful light experience, which ended the last little part I'll tell you, which is my favorite part these days when I talk about it. I had this beautiful visitation dream with an angel. So for 2 years, I had all these different things happening. And at the end, I thought I was gonna go live in heaven, like, this was cool, I'm learning all this awesome stuff, and then I'm gonna peace out, like, I'm gonna go live in heaven, it's gonna be cool. And that didn't happen. I don't know why I thought that, but, I had this dream that I was in my room talking to this person who was glowing. He was a beautiful man talking to me, like, we were and I was saying, like, "Life is hard, I don't know why I'm here, and I don't know what I'm doing." And he just kept looking at me with all this love, just like his eyes, like he was glowing. He was saying, and then he started saying, like, life is amazing. You need to go out and have a great life. Go have adventures. Go live a great life. It's such a gift to be alive. And it was just like all this love was just shining on me. And I was like, wow, he's going to be such a good boyfriend. I can't wait to meet this guy. What's 28 in New York? Like, I really thought, did not realize for like over a decade that it was an angel visitation. But I in the dream, I said, what's your name? And he told me his name was Jonathan. And I said, when am I going to meet you? And he said, you'll meet me when you finish swimming. And it just all love. And then the dream shifted from me talking to him in my room to me being on a big ship, lowered into the ocean. And I had to start swimming out alone into the ocean. And I woke up the next morning and it was like all the light was gone. It just pulled back. My experience was over. I didn't realize it because I was like, wait, why am I still here? Where's all the angels? I could just feel all the light. Like, it's not like it, now I know it didn't leave, but I thought it had. Now I have a system, like Ray, you're a medium. I have a system to connect to that light and the angels. But for a long time, I didn't know, why it ended. And I thought God abandoned me. I thought I left here. Yeah, I would cry. I cried alone. I tried to go live in the woods to like, maybe I could get back to that space.
Wow.
But now here I am, 16 years after it ended, like able to talk and share about it and having developed a system to connect instead of just giving up, which, it's like I say, it's a lot to have these beautiful experiences. They're so amazing, but then you're just also still here on the earth and like trying to make sense of all that love. So thank you
Yes.
for letting me share because it helps
Oh, it's amazing.
talk. Yeah.
Extraordinary. Can you share a little bit about your system of reconnecting?
Yeah, I basically get back in touch with that light intentionally. So for those 2 years, it was like right around me because of what I'd written by accident. I feel like it's kind of an accident in my personality, but maybe not my soul. So I get back in touch with that light. I do a big light meditation, bringing the light through my body and feeling, and I really know what I'm connecting to because of the space I was in my STE. So that light, the angels that I felt. So I get into that peaceful space. I open my heart really big. I connect my heart to the person I'm sitting with. And then, or if I'm doing a message, I just will feel them come close to me. So I do these messages every day on my Instagram where I basically have to breathe and relax until I feel them next to me and I hear their messages. I do a lot of, well, they also show me things too. And it's just like a muscle. For a long time after it ended, I was like, this was fake. I made it up and I'm going to ignore it. And so I'd let my muscles atrophy, really. I didn't understand that I needed to actually, do my part of it. So I was
Train.
yeah.
Can you share some of the themes that if there are themes?
From
maybe-
readings that I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. People, obviously, it's funny. People feel so embarrassed because everyone wants to ask about their love life and everyone wants to ask about their careers. But for angel readings, it's some of that, but it's also a lot of life purpose, like life meaning, because angel readings are a little different than psychic readings. It's like your higher self and the divine, like talking through me to tell people what they need. And they can be really general. They don't give a lot of specific details. They can, but it's more like your own soul's growth. So
Well
Yeah.
said. Perfect.
Yeah.
Very well said.
yeah.
So with your own soul's growth, is it more like, can you, I don't want to guess. Can you
Yeah,
say
well, I
some
have
of the
stuff
things
like a lot of stuff. It'll be like, I'll just see, like, they'll always give me one thing to tune into first to validate. Because I know, Ray, if you're a medium, you do like probably evidential, like you want to hear that you're getting stuff that's real. So I always hear at least one thing, and sometimes they'll be like, I'm seeing you like standing with a lot of things in your hand, and they just flew out of your hand, and you're standing with nothing in your hand now. And that seems really general, but the person that I was reading this for was like, oh yeah, I was just making all these plans, and I'm not sure what I'm doing anymore, and I don't know where I'm going with it. So it's like soul's growth, but also like they'll give me images that make sense to a person. So
wow.
You, I don't know if you want to do this, but you're a medium. I don't know if you want to go down that path, but you can
yes,
easily
right.
develop it. But
Thank
it's,
you. Well,
you
that's sweet. Well, I do have loved ones come into readings, and I know people have different views about this. So I read for many different groups of people. But I will sometimes I'll be reading for someone, and like as soon as I open up the field, there's a relative that's really loud. It's not like they'll be like, their grandma's
That's why
definitely
it's
here. But usually, if people are coming to an angel reading, most of the time they really would love to also hear from relatives. But I leave that up to y'all because it's a special gift to do that, and I feel like it's definitely a little for me, it's a little different because the angels, I know them really well from my experience.
So that's kind of your comfort zone. You're like, this is
Yeah.
my little niche that I feel
Yeah.
comfortable with.
Yeah, but I have massive respect for mediums and anyone who does any kind of spiritual work. It takes some practice for most of it.
Yeah.
You know, you explained your STE, and it sound exactly like, and you're spoke at IANS, so you know the NDE and what it's like, and it
Yeah.
sounds exactly like you had an NDE, but you were alive.
Yes, that's
You
right.
saw the light. The light entered you. I mean, I had an NDE and
Wow.
that's the way it felt, exactly the way you described it.
That's so
You
cool. Yeah.
become one with that light, and that light is love. That's I love hearing about the STE because it fascinates me.
Yeah. Thank you. And that's so cool that you had an NDE because I was after my experience, I was like, I was just reading all these NDE books, like in near death experience accounts and books because I was like, I don't know what just happened. I don't know if it's real, but like these people make a lot of sense. And then yeah, when I was ready to talk about it, that's who I went to first was Ians. Just and
Mhm.
when I look at the things that happen in an NDE, like it happened in my experience, but just
Yes.
while I was awake.
Yeah.
I don't know if I
Um,
would have been more scared if I was awake.
I feel at least you passed the other side. I was just like, I could just be have lost my freaking mind. 'Cause I was
well, I want to stay there
yeah.
with that idea of maybe I've just lost my freaking mind
Mhm.
because it is this unknown terrain.
Mm.
And I really feel for you in the space of
Yes, thank you.
questioning everything. How long did, I imagine you in New York City and you're walking to class at Columbia and everyone's got these auras and these lights. And it sounded like it was like you're so overcome by how beautiful everyone was. How long did that last?
That light just lasted a couple of days. I still see light in people, but that it was like this heavenly ethereal light, all like the light that came
Long.
to her that was um really pronounced right after the night of my experience starting. But yeah, I
Yeah.
still see it now. It's just not quite as big. I have
Can you amplify? Can you say, I can see that light and let me focus on bringing the angels in and then it can amplify?
Yeah, if I'm really calm and peaceful, like if I were actually like living my life as a monk on a mountain, I'd probably see it all the time. But I'm a
Mhm.
mom, I have a job, like
I
clean the
think that
house.
absolutely do the laundry, take out the garbage, pay the bills. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask about this idea of when you're in your heart, it's easier to make decisions, but you are also seeing all of these eventualities of different choices you could make. Because my head, not my heart, goes, wouldn't that be great? You'd have all the information to make the best choice. Can you say a little bit more about what that was like?
Yes, that was very hard. And it actually made my life really hard for a long time knowing after having experienced this other timeline and just being a person, I was like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know what I should do because anything I do is going to change my life. I was just like, and I was
Mhm.
already kind of a worrier.
I
It
know.
was, it is like, it does help to get really calm and just to trust that if I'm tuning into the guidance, that my life will go on the right path. But it's neat to know that. It's nice to
Yes.
hear different ways our life can change, but just to know that we have the divine with us, but we have free will and we can choose things that are better or worse for us. We have the
Mhm.
guidance to help choose that we have that internal compass. But when my experience ended and I wasn't listening, I would make choices that I would hear something and be like, well, I'm not doing that. I had to work this out on my own, which is I think why I'm supposed to
Mhm.
talk about it because I was not like a really good spiritual person. So I think, it was overwhelming,
How
but
many
it did help. Yeah.
how many years did it take you to reconcile this from the
A
time it
very
happened to
long
the
time. Yeah, once it ended, I went through some periods of, okay, why am I not in heaven? So I'm here. This sucks. Why did God abandon me? And then after a while, I was like, well, I made all that up and I just ignored it. Once I realized I was here and I felt really like like left. And then finally it maybe gosh, it was really the last few years, like 2018, 2019, 2020, and I would always be like, "I'm supposed to talk about something." Like, even for a while, but I know I'm supposed to talk about something, but I can't remember what it is. Like, and then over time, it
Mm.
was like, "Oh, right, I'm supposed to share about this super personal experience that is really out there." And I knew in 2023, it was time for me to start talking about it publicly in a big way. So I went from never telling anyone. I told two friends a little bit about my experience right when it was starting, and then I stopped, And then in 2023, I got a big push to submit to speak at IANS because they had the call for speakers. And I went from having never told anyone really to going on a stage at IANS and sharing my entire experience last year. And that's what's put me on this path now of sharing with you lovely people on podcasts and going back to the conference. And
I wish I would have met you. I was there last year as well,
you
and I
were
wish we would. Yeah, yeah. I wish
Well,
we
I
would have.
was such a mess. I was having panic attacks. When I spoke, I was shaking because I'd this had been such an internal private thing. So I wish I would have met you too, but maybe you'll go back next year.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe. Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
a great
yeah.
story.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. So now, how do you live your life? Because I'm hearing like just total skeptic, this extraordinary experience, and then periods of major discomfort with it, and then rejecting it, and now trying to embody it.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you live your life now that you're where you are?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. I have my regular life. I have my job and my family. Fridays I do my readings. I wake up and I do meditations every morning now. I do the tuning in and getting messages for people. And I also have a much better community. So for a long time I was just really in the desert with this experience on my own.
Yeah.
And now I have so many people I know through IANS, through different spiritual groups that help me feel more regular. We can talk about it
Mhm.
later. So my life
Mhm.
is, I think I don't just see angels all the time. It's more like something that I live my life and then I turn it on and I do my stuff and then I turn it off.
Mhm.
I think part of me, because of my experience, Ray, do you do that too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And before you learn how to do that, it can be very intrusive and scary. When it's
Yeah. I mean, I did see an angel last week. People say the energy is getting stronger. I saw a beautiful, very full of light angel with a blue and purple light and white light. But that's not often. And I honestly think I'm not supposed to see them all the time because I'm an escapist. Because my trauma and what I saw, all the beautiful spiritual stuff, I have to be really intentional about staying here and being in my regular life and
Just
not
got
just wanting to
chills.
escape. Yeah. Okay. So that's a
I would
truth.
do the same. I would not blind to do the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So
do
Yeah.
you speak about your trauma, or is that
I
not
have
something?
started to. I had a sexual trauma. I was awakened. I was basically drugged and
Mhm.
very publicly, multiple people raped me. Sorry, I started to use that word on your podcast. You can take that out if you want.
No,
It's
it's
trauma.
No,
fine.
no.
It's
This
Fair
okay.
warning.
show is how I made it through, and that
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're an
Yeah.
example of making it through.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Yeah,
It was
trauma's
painful.
part of I'm so sorry.
Well, thank you. It was so bad. It was so hard. I thought it was my fault. I didn't tell anyone. And then I just was having breakdowns. I was suicidal. And I mean, but I made it, I
You
did make
sure
it through.
did.
And
Yeah.
it feels like I have a purpose now. When you find your purpose in your trauma, that was the purpose of what I went through.
Yeah. That's so as I'm thinking the word purpose, you said it. Um, what do you feel like your purpose is?
Um, I think to tell people about my story and help people know that you can heal. You can miraculously heal. But I also think, doing my spiritual work is part of my purpose as well. I
Mhm.
also work with kids a lot in my regular job, and that's part of my purpose. The only thing that's hard about that is the paperwork. There's no paperwork really in my spiritual side of my job.
Yeah. Yeah. If someone is searching or struggling, and we are all somewhere on that spectrum of searching and struggling, um, any message that you want to leave them with?
The first what I would say is don't give up. That you're deeply loved and cared for, even if you can't always feel it. My experience taught me that you are. And you can reach out for help from people around you and from your spiritual team and helpers from the divine.
Mm,
And don't give up and reach out for help.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We've almost come full circle because when you came on, we were talking about people in a desperate place. And that really is the message. That really is the message.
I was going to ask, do you find the others that you've met, you now have this circle of other spiritual friends, right? And
Mhm.
do you find that the ones that are awakened generally have a past of trauma? There is something of that nature in their life that shifted them.
I think so. And it's interesting because even near death experience, that's a huge trauma. Your body just died. And then I have other friends that I do kind of feel like it does help you to create a spiritual reality if you've had a trauma. I was told that when the physical world doesn't take care of you, the spiritual world does. So I wonder if that like act of, kind of being left and abandoned by humans helped me kind of develop a connection to the other side. But I would love for people to get spiritual without having to have trauma. I think that'd be
Yeah.
awesome. Maybe
Well,
that'll
they
keep.
can. They can. It's just I think that now that there's a core group of people like you and I and
Yeah.
Kristin and others,
hmm
we can bring those folks in without them having to go through that. Right.
Yeah, that would be great because I think you're right. I think there hasn't been a reason before because you're like, oh, my life is going fine. But if your life hasn't been going fine, you do need the spiritual side. But yeah, maybe we can all say our lives would be just a lot better with spiritual reality.
Yeah. Well, that makes me think too, when I do listen to psychic mediums in my own belief system, perspective, at least for now, as it's changing and ever evolving, is that perhaps we chose these life paths, even with these traumas, to be able to say, this will really catapult my learning as I contribute to the collective, to deepen my empathy, to open up the door to spiritual experiences, and then to invite and shepherd others who perhaps don't need to have them.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of
Right.
different ways you can start to analyze it. You're really great at telling your story.
Oh, thank you. I've been working on it. Thank you. That's
Well,
really kind.
it's
It's taken a while.
You have an
you.
amazing energy about you.
Thanks.
It's a beautiful, radiant energy. I just have to share that with you.
Or not. You do too. Both of you, beautiful, beautiful humans. Love seeing it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I've been asking the same question of everyone as we come to the end. Speaking of the end, as you come to the end of your life, what will have made it most meaningful, and what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh wow, so powerful. I think making spirituality and a spiritual reality more accessible to people would be a big one for me. That's why I'm doing this, but also, of course, to impact people's lives and help them heal and help them feel loved. But I can help people know spirituality can just be a regular part of your life and it's real. I'd be very glad for that.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
So people are going to be listening to the story, and I imagine many are going to want to connect with you, maybe have an angel reading. How do we reach you?
You can find me on my website. It's RebeccaKastl.com. I also have an Instagram under the same name. I have a YouTube I'm just trying to start. So come find me under my name. It's all there. So I can't wait to connect with you. I'm here. I have availability on Fridays for readings and healing. So would love to see
Great.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
How I Made It Through is produced and distributed by EIQ Media, LLC. Elevate your emotional IQ with podcasts and content focused on overcoming adversity, leadership, mental health, entrepreneurship, spiritually transformative experiences, and more.